New do-it-yourself ran artist record labels and people who are just kind of getting their feet wet in the game, they struggle with how to assign percentages in deals. And to be quite frank, when I hop on these calls with you all, this is probably the number one thing I get outside of, parent company LLCs is how do I assign the right percentages to everybody in the company or for all the artists that I need to pay and be fair at the same time. So it's a battle of trying to find the fairest deal so you don't look like a sleazeball in this game. And I also think that it is a battle of changing the game because things don't always stay the same, right? We graduated from regular record deals to 360 deals, and now artists are like, yo, I'm pretty much doing all the work myself. Why do I need to do this? So today's video comes from the inspiration of the Renegade, Miss Tiffany Red, and another Renegade, La Russell, and I'm pretty much combining their deal points together and just bringing this, in a forum style so you can kind of understand where things can go if you decide to take a fair approach in divvying out some percentages from the master recording. So we're going to talk about that coming up right here on the Music Money Makeover show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Music Money Makeover show. My name is Casey Graham, and being from the independent side of things, I've always wanted to make my deals fair. And in order to do that, you have to technically be on the independent side to kind of have a free reign of what you're going to do with your percentages in your record deal. So with that being said, balancing fairness and profit is something that we're going to have to tackle. So let's jump right in. All right, so the first thing we got to look at here is our ownership shares versus our profit shares. Now, because you are the record company, you should only split percentages of revenue through royalty shares, and you should not share ownership of the master recording copyright. Now, this is going to be important as you begin to split up your percentages here, simply because when you're the owner of these, the masters that you have, the intellectual property, you can move about the chessboard a lot easier and make deals and decisions on the masters more so than someone who has an ownership percentage, right? And in your deal, you won't want to really give them too much permission on what they can and can't agree to when it comes to the licensing of these masters. The only person you would want to give that type of incentive to would be the artist that we're going to talk about later when we throw them into the pie here. So you want to be clear that what I'm talking about today is strictly profit sharing. It is not ownership sharing. And if you're going to pull this type of deal off where you're going to offer out a lot of percentages, you're going to want to focus on the profit share right here. Check it out. Advances. All advances must be paid back before any royalties can be paid out. I think that's fair, right? If I advance you on projected earnings, you should pay it back. I really believe that's fair. Now, let's add in our percentages now. I feel that not 4%, but 5% is fair to just round everything off for producers. Remember, we're in an independent world, and I feel like this deal is going to come from all the independent record labels saying that, nah, man, we really don't want to do all that complicated stuff that y'all have going on. It's too slave driving, if you will, and then we don't want to really be in that space. So I'm going to add a 5% producer royalty in here. And let's say this is for a single or an album. Either way, this is how we're going to pull our profit sharing apart from the 100% pie. Okay, so now 5% to the producer, 95% to record label. We looking good right now. Okay, now here's what's inspired by Tiffany Red. I know it doesn't say songwriter right there, but the program didn't add it in. But I feel that songwriters should get a part of the master. And I've said this years ago on this channel when I was talking about Tiffany Red then. But the fact of the matter is that songwriters have a key integral part of the production of the song. And nowadays, and really it's been like this for years, is that a lot of times you'll have some songwriters come in and produce on the record, right? Simply because they're vocal producing, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, or they're basically adding more arrangement to the production, or they're building the song in the production process. Therefore, I feel that songwriters should be compensated just like producers, okay? Straight up. Because to craft a hit record, it's not just a producer alone that's doing this stuff. But in order for this to kind of graduate into the mainstream, it's going to have to come from the grassroots. So you all are going to have to start paying your songwriters. I feel that you should give your songwriter an advance on their earnings. And it's strictly for all master revenue. That means licensing and all of that. I didn't speak about that for the producers, but that means all licensing. The songwriters should get a part of that. They should get in advance. And they should also, this is inspired by Tiffany Red, they should be able to get a session fee, just like back here on the producers. They would, in some cases, get a session fee, but they should be getting session fees as well. All right. And then producers can split that 5% up multiple times. And then the songwriters, if there are multiple songwriters, they should be able to split that 5% up multiple times. You get what I'm saying? Now, let's add another player into the mix, the vocal producer. Because sometimes, let's say the producer and the songwriter craft the song together, but the vocal producer is really the one that runs the session, okay? The vocal producer is producing as well. They're still adding to the arrangements because things can change a little bit after the songwriter has laid the guide. The vocal producer can change things in arrangements for backgrounds and all kinds of things. They too should get in advance. They too should share in all of the master royalty. So licensing as well, and they should also get a session fee for running the session. Okay, all this is inspired by LaRussell and Tiffany Red. I'm just saying this is what their points are, but I too agree with what they're saying. So what are we in now? 12% out of the master so far, and this is a royalty. This is profit share right here. Okay. And all of these three people will be getting advances, and we're in 12% right now. So check this out. The engineer. Now here's where it starts to switch a bit. The engineer I feel like should get their 1% royalty. And I think that it should be a lot more customary than it is right now. They shouldn't get in advance because they're already getting their session fee, which is this. They're going to get paid by the hourly rate anyway. And I'm only going to give the engineer streaming royalties only. All right, we're going to talk about physicals coming later in the video. So I'm going to give the engineer 1%. So we're out 13% right now. Now, here's where you can, if you're an independent record label, you can start to bring people on board without necessarily paying them. So maybe you do your own A&R and project management, but in some cases you may need a project manager. So here's a recommendation. I'm recommending 3%. No advance, and it only comes from streaming royalties, not physical royalties or any licensing plays or anything like that. 3%. If you can pull on a project manager or an A&R and you give them 3% of your streaming royalties, then I feel that they would do a lot better job for you. They would find better records, and this is where the street execs come in. They would find better records for you, and then from there, your project starts to become a lot more credible. You see what I'm saying? Because now they're going back and they're finding these songwriters that you're going to pay, and everybody's eating at this point. So now they can do a better job, and they're incentivized to do a better job for you. Okay. Now, the executive producer. This is the person who is going over all of the records. You know, after the vocal producer did their thing, maybe they're organizing some things. Maybe they're doubling as the A&R, and this is how you can kind of get rid of this percentage right here to find the best records possible, to maybe get the flow of the album right. Usually this is 2%, but I was a little generous and I gave them an extra percent at 3%. And it's only going to come from the streaming royalty, right? The more and more I dig into, more of these percentages, the more and more I'm going to rely on the streaming only. No advances coming from this. Like I said, A&R project manager won't be getting in advance either. All right. So now we're not too far. Like, it's not too bad. We're at 19%, right? We've given away 19% already, and we're still looking good. Now, assistant. If you have an assistant that's doing anything with the A&R or with the executive producer or just in your label period, pay your assistant. This comes from LaRussell right here. Pay your assistant because they're working very, very hard for you. And chances are you're probably paying them only a stipend or some lunch money or something. So really pay your assistants like a good fee. And I think that from streaming royalties and no advance, 1% is cool, right? So they won't be liable for any debt. The A&R or the executive producer won't be liable for any debt, and neither will the engineer. All right. Now, in-house admin, 5%, and I'm gonna talk about why in a minute. And this is the only money they will be getting in advance will be an initial registration fee, and that will be non-recoupable, meaning that they don't have to recoup that back. The more and more people become independent is the more and more they won't want to do work like I talk about in the 60-day record label, right? Remember, you're setting your business up in the 60-day record label that I talk about all the time. But the problem is for artists, they don't really want to do the registration. But as I told you in the 60-day record label, is that song trust 15% is too expensive in the beginning, and it can cause headache when you're slowly rising or you're quickly rising and you want to do some deals and song trust is in the way. We don't want them in the way. You get what I'm saying? So from that point, you'll want to find an in-house admin or somebody that you can pay to do the work. And, if you pay them to do the work and you don't want to give them 5%, fine. But the thing about it is, watch this. When licensing starts to come in because your projects are doing so well, when you get opportunities and royalties need to be paid out, but remember, you don't have anybody that's handling like a song trust. They're not, you don't have anybody in place. You can use this 5% right here to pay somebody. So now, instead of giving somebody 15%, you can give them 5% and make sure that your royalties go out without necessarily having to have a business manager on board. So this is a way that an independent record label can pay out all of the bodies that they're going to need to work and incentivize them and get them a little bit more amped about working with them in the record label than actually paying them a salary. And as you begin to rise, everybody's together like family. You get what I'm saying? So I'm going to just give them a 5% fee. You can either take that or leave it. I don't know. You don't have to use that, but I'm just suggesting it. Here's why. I'm a publisher. I know that at a minimum, we collect 15%. But we would work harder if a portion of the master was shared and we would take less on the publishing. So simply because you gave us 5% on the master. And as a publisher, we know that the master is going to pay out way quicker than publishing revenue, and it's going to be way more than publishing revenue. So we may take a serious decrease on the 15% of the publishing just to handle your in-house admin. So you really can do this type of deal now with all of the distribution services offering their royalty split functions. You get what I'm saying? So now, add your artist royalty in here. If we add a 20% artist royalty, this artist royalty, and let me explain, I didn't add any extra explainers right here, but this artist royalty, now you can advance them, but here's the trick. If you really want to make this a fair deal, you can advance them your projected sales, or you don't have to give them in advance at all. But as a record label, if you really want to be fair, you don't make the artist liable for the recording costs and all that stuff because you own the master 100% anyway. So what you do is say, I'm not going to pay out anybody until we make our money back. Then we open up the gate to pay everybody back. Or the producer, the songwriter, and the vocal producer can all get paid back once they make their money back, or it can be an all-in recouping thing. As a label, I'm telling you now, if you do an all-in recouping situation, meaning let's say you spend $20,000 for an album, for an independent album to get going, right? And you make your $20,000 back rather quickly, everybody can start getting paid from that. And you only have to make 1 times the dollar back, which makes it quicker. The more and more you make everybody responsible for their own debt is the longer it takes for them to get paid out, which is why recently I heard Tiffany say, I don't think anybody gets paid producer royalties because if they advance high enough, it takes forever to get that money back. All right. Now, what if you sell physical copies? Well, remember all the people that I put on streaming only? I took them out, which now gives the record label a 62% share when you start to press vinyl and CD for the nostalgia folks out there who want to buy just a piece of your merchandise. You see what I'm saying? So it's not too bad of a situation when you're actually running a company, and a 55% profit is not bad. You still have the majority of the profit share. It's just not a greedy deal. It's a fair deal. So now, what would an in-house admin do? Collect and disperse royalties, manage metadata, DSP management, contract management, splits, and management. Like, it's so much that goes into that after you're done with the initial registration, it's making sure that none of this stuff gets screwed up. Your in-house admin is going to be with you for a while after the project release, making sure that everything is in pocket. And then after that, they're going to make sure that all the royalties are coming in for you. So it really starts to build your all-around ecosystem before you even think about bringing some outside parties in. If you truly want to be independent, you get what I'm saying? Like, if you really want to be an independent, you want to have an in-house admin. All right, now, what's the problem with this? Attorneys don't like deals that go against the top labels because it can't be converted. So in order to graduate into the majors, this deal has to be restructured, and you would lose your team going forward. So that's kind of the problem with this, but I can see that more and more independents are moving to a deal structure like this where it's like, hey man, let's just pay the team some percentages. And I 100% agree with this, because it's like, why do you have to make everybody starve? Now, especially if you're the artist, why do you have to make everybody starve? That doesn't make a person that would come back. That makes people that, say they get disgruntled with you, saying that, oh man, and you could say, hey, that's just what the game is, or you could begin to change it. And I feel that everybody will begin to change this very, very soon. I give it 2 years, and this is really going to start to become the next big thing in music. It's going to be, I don't know what it's going to be called, but it's going to be like the deal of the independents. It's going to be a fair deal. Now, can this be executed today? Absolutely it can. You can actually execute this on a napkin agreement and not really have any issues. But how does this look down the road? Well, your in-house admin will still be working. Like I said earlier, the team will champion you more because they eaten. You get what I mean? Everybody will want to work with you because of the way you do business. Plus, you still own 100% and collect 80%, depending on which one of those things you put in there or which royalties you put in. And you can still do a deal on 80% of the royalty with a major if you need investment or a major investor. But guess who's going to help? Your in-house admin is going to help with that. You get what I'm saying? So think about this. Give this a serious thinking session, because this can really change your independent status and your company. The morale of the company boosts at this point, and you get more help. So hit me on this site if you try this out and it begins to work. I really want to hear the results that you have from this. Now, in order to set this up, you're going to need all of the accounts and everything that I talk about within the 60-day record label. Plus, you're going to need to know how to run a standard deal before you can reconstruct into this deal right here. So what I did was I established a framework so that you could build a record label in a perfect 60-day sequence. All right. Setting up the LLC and the bank account flawlessly for some base level anonymity, and then getting your international publishing revenue and your domestic revenue as well can be done within this course. You don't have to go out to some outside collector taking too much of your money. And then you can utilize the contract templates, like I was just saying earlier, to learn how those deals were previously structured and learn the ins and outs of more parts of the deal when it comes to licensing, so that you now know how to effectively run the record label that you will design with this concept that I have listed out in today's video. And all this stuff is covered: BMI, ASCAP, Sound Exchange, the MLC. Look at it. I mean, it's so much more. That's not even all of it right there. It's just $275 or 5 easy payments of $55. Not much to get you way, way, way ahead of the game. Okay, so let's develop your strategy after you're done with the course, or before, if you just want to hit me up and we got a bunch of questions to answer. Book a call with me on the site or right down below in the description. And then if this is your first time watching the show, grab the free stuff below. But here's the successful horizon that I want to get to with this deal. You'll be able to hire more employees faster. Your team will be solid, cool, and collected. Now, because nobody's hungry, they're eating now. They're excited about working. They're incentivized and they're empowered. You'll sleep better at night. Your name will stay cleaner in the business. You'll be a trailblazer in the game, and you will have better retention with your creators. Your creators will continue to come back until you need to move them out the way and get better creators. But if you're starting to fall off, you'll stay in the old cycle. Man, I don't want to do that deal case, man. I ain't going to make no money. Yes, you are going to make money. It's just going to be different. You know what I'm saying? So you can stay in the old cycle if you want to. But artists are on the cusp of this revolution. So your business will take longer to move due to the lack of a team, and everybody will see your label as just another label. And there's no incentive to sign with you at this point. You know what I mean? So with that being said, I recommend that you really take a good hard look at this video, figure out how you can sit with your attorney and make this type of deal happen, and let me know how it goes. Clearly, a lot of you all want to make a fair environment for your record deal and for the staff that works for you and the artists that you sign. So I just recommend that you try a couple of these deal points. Maybe sit down with your attorney and work it out and see how it works for you. And then come back and let me know how it worked out for you. All right, music money makers, if you make music, you should always make money. Log on to musicmoneymakeover.com, jump into the 60-day record label course, grab the free stuff below, and I'll see you next time. Peace.